this is Kurt with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at the TruXedo TruXport soft roll-up tonneau cover on our 2022 GMC Sierra 1500. Now it is important to double check the fit guide on our website because we have a 5 3/4 foot bed today. However, there is a 6.5 foot and an 8 foot bed version for the same truck. So double check that you've got the correct vehicle in the fit guide before choosing. Tonneau cover is an excellent way to keep the items in your truck bed, relatively dry and dust free. So while no tonneau cover is completely waterproof, these are going to do a really good job of keeping everything kind of clean back there without making too much of a mess. And a soft tonneau cover like this, while it's not the best protection against thieves necessarily, because technically a thief can kind of cut right through this vinyl top, a hard tonneau cover is better protection against that. A soft tonneau cover like this, though, is going to protect against those elements that I mentioned earlier and just keep everything nice and tidy back here. The TruXport does sit above your bed rails by about 1.5 inches, so it does come up off of there a little bit. And as we come around to the back, this cannot be unlatched or opened up unless the tailgate itself is open. So there is going to be a lot of security in that. No one's going to be able to get in here as long as your tailgate is locked. And while we're speaking of tailgates, if you have the Multi-Pro tailgate from GMC, this tonneau cover is going to work with that just fine. So if we go ahead and open up the tailgate here, what we'll find is there is going to be a release cord underneath here that we'll be able to pull back and unlatch it. It'll pop up just like this. And the tailgate cross member and other cross members in here are going to keep this guided really, really well as it goes along our rails. So here we come upon our first cross member here. But this rolls up really tight and really straight because of those guides. And also because of these, you're not really going to need two people to roll this up even. It's really easy to get it guided all the way up to the bulkhead by itself. And then once we get it all the way up here, we do have a hook and loop that we're able to just put it in and get it securely fit so that it could stay up in case we have items in the truck bed that are too tall to drive around with the tonneau cover on. When it's ready to deploy it again, we'll go ahead and unhook either side and we'll just guide it on down just like so. And again, these cross members really do help just make sure everything is nice and tight and straight. And again, it allows us to do this single-handed instead of having somebody on the other side to help kind of guide it into position. Then once we get all the way to the end here, it's going to latch in right here on either side. And we'll be able to close it and latch it down just like so. Once that's done, what you're going to want to do though is go around the sides. The sides have a hook and loop system around it. That's just going to keep this really tight across the entire tonneau cover and help us to keep it sealed. Because that's another great thing about this tonneau cover. All 4 sides of the tonneau cover have a seal underneath it to keep out as much water as possible. And once we get everything down on all the sides with this latch down, we can go ahead and close our tailgate and we're ready to hit the road. Now, installation of this tonneau cover is fairly simple, so follow along and we'll show you exactly how we got this on our GMC Sierra 1500. To start our installation, it's always a good idea to lay out our parts and make sure that we have everything we need. So going from left to right, we're going to have our driver's side rail, our cover, our passenger rail, our bulkhead seal and our corner seals, and 6 clamps. And what we'll need to provide is a 1/2 inch socket and a pair of scissors or some other kind of cutting tool. The first part of installation is going to be to put down our bulkhead seal. Now we've already taken some alcohol and wiped this down really good and let it dry. That's really important. It is an adhesive, so we want to make sure it sticks and stays. So what we'll end up doing is placing this, we're going from the inside of our bed rail to the inside of our driver bed rail. And where we want it to place is completely on the flat part. So line up your inside edge as close to where it starts to curve over as possible. On our bulkhead here, we have this little nook in the liner, and that actually lines up pretty well with it, so we're going to use that as our guide. But we're just going to stick it down and just kind of slowly work our way all the way over to the driver's side. Just making sure we're keeping it in place as we go. Once we got everything across, you are going to have some excess here, so go ahead and take your utility knife or your scissor, get it lined up so that it's right up against our bed rail here, and we're just going to cut that excess right off. And once we've got that done, we can go ahead and peel back our sticker here on the top. And we're just going to give this a couple of minutes to kind of dry out, stick down, get settled before bringing our cover up. Go ahead and grab your cover, and on your cover at the bulkhead end here, we're going to have a rubber strip really similar to what we've got, the seal that we just put down. But we're going to go ahead and take our cover and we're going to lay it close to where it's going to need to be in place here before grabbing and attaching our rails. For the next step, there's another seal that we're going to need to apply, and it's going to be the corner seals on our rails here up at the bulkhead. What you're going to end up doing is just turn your rail over. The end we're looking at is the end that has this little plug here. And we're going to find this kind of crescent space right here. With that, we're going to take that little seal pad here, and the ones that have the center of it that cut out there in the center, those are the ones that we're looking for here. So I'm going to go ahead and peel that off, and I'm going to put that in place right over that spot. And give it a good press, make sure it sticks well. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to dry and adhere. I'm going to go ahead and do our passenger side as well. We're going to grab our passenger side rail. We're going to put this kind of plug end right here. We're going to be inserting it into the end of the bulkhead portion of our cover right here. So we're going to go ahead and slide that through. So when you're putting it in, don't expect it to like click and lock in. It's not really going to do that. What you want to do is make sure you guided it in there so that it is there and in place. And once you have that done here on the passenger side, just repeat this process on the driver's side. After both of your rails are inserted, come back up here under the cover, and that seal that's underneath the cover, we want to get that lined up with the seal that we put down at the beginning of installation. So once that's lined up, we also want to come over and we want to make sure that our rails are lined up to be flush with our bed rails. Grab our clamps, and first we'll talk about where we need to place them. We've already installed on our passenger side, so the idea is we want to get one of our clamps as far to the, or as close rather, to the tailgate as possible, one as close to the bulkhead as possible, and then as evenly as we can in the middle, get a clamp in the middle. Now this one's slightly off center because there are some like tabs and things like that that are holding on our bed rail that we really can't work around with the clamp. So we're a little bit off center in the middle, but for the most part, we've got it pretty evenly distributed. So we're just going to loosen our bracket up. I'm just going to get it as loose as I can. It's going to open up just like this. I'm going to go ahead and twist this around a little bit to help it clear. If you feel around under here, you're going to have one of those tabs under the bed rail right about here. So I'm going to place the clamp behind it, but before it starts to slant over. So there is space for it right in here. So with this longer edge with the teeth, that's going to go on the bottom. So I'm going to slip that under. And then the top end, I'm just going to slide over. And this tab here on the front of it is going to go under this little lip that we find here. And I'm going to move it toward the back until it bumps up against that slanted portion. And then I'm just going to hand tighten these down for the moment. I want them in a position to where they're not going to move on me, but I don't want them completely tightened down yet. And I'm just going to continue this process with the other 2 clamps in those placements that we discussed on the passenger side. So we're getting toward the end of our installation, and while the instructions did mention a 1/2-inch socket as a tool that would be required for installation, what they failed to mention is that what you'll actually need is a torque wrench. There is a torque spec in the instructions for these bolts, so go ahead, take your torque wrench with your 1/2-inch socket and adjust it to the foot-pounds recommended in the instructions. So once all 6 of our clamps are torqued down, we're going to go ahead and unlatch our cover so that we could roll it down our rails. So we've done the passenger side already. We're going to go ahead and unhook right here behind it, let that fall, and we're just going to guide this on down the rail here as we go. We've got those support arms. We're just going to make sure that as those come through, they're sitting on the rails. As we get it unrolled to the tailgate, we're going to have these little kind of pie-shaped spaces right here. This is where we're going to apply our tailgate seal. So we're just going to peel those off and put them in place just like so. Now the rounded part is going to overhang. We're lining up these straight line parts to be flush with it. We're going to just get that stuck on there like so. Give it a good press, make sure it stays where it needs to be. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for that to set too before we finish up by closing our tailgate. So we did the passenger side. I'm going to go get the driver's side done, and then we'll give it a few minutes. Directions do mention as you're putting the rails on that you may need to make some adjustments after you try to latch it closed, and that did just happen to us. When we tried to latch down the end of our tailgate, or the end of our tonneau cover at the tailgate end here, what we found out was that our rails were just slightly far apart on both sides. So we loosened our clamps and tightened them down again once we figured out the best placement for them. So the best placement for them really is this inside edge here. If you line that up with the liner of your truck bed, it is going to overlap on the end here. You can see the seal at the bottom of our rail overlaps a little bit. But if we line that bed liner up with the inside of this part right here, it's going to latch shut perfectly fine. In fact, it just kind of falls right into place where it should. Just like that. And latches shut perfectly. We can pop our cord, open it up, and roll it back up again. So it's going to cradle in just like this. This lip here is going to go into this little nook on either side, just like so. Going to fold down. You're going to get some resistance at this point, but you're just going to clamp it shut. And then there's going to be a pull string or a cord underneath. You have one on either side so that you can open it from either end. But you just pop that, it'll delatch it, and you can lift it up and roll it up from there. I really like the overall look of this on here. I like the vinyl grain top. I like the more matte finish to it. I think it complements the bed rails really, really well. And overall, I think this is a great look. So if you're really looking for a solution for your truck bed that is economic and easy to install, and if anti-theft isn't your #1 priority, your priority is more just keep everything back here dry and clean, I think the TruXport from Truxedo is an excellent option for you as far as a tonneau cover. And if after watching this video you decide this is the tonneau cover for you and you get it installed, please share with us what you think about it in the comments below. We would love to share that experience with other neighbors so they can make the best decision for themselves. Once again, this is Kurt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.